All right, we are live. Cool. So I think there's usually a few second delay. Everybody will probably be joining here shortly. But all right, let's kick this off. I got with me Burns271, and I am Hunter Sinclair. This is welcome to the Week 8 NFL Off Chalk Pod, and we are going to break down our off chalk, lower kind of ownership plays. And I thought we would switch it up a little bit this week since the last two pods have been a little bit long. So rather than just going game by game and, kind of breaking the whole thing down, I was thinking we could start off by just highlighting some of our favorite off chalk plays this week. I don't know if you're prepared for that. I'm going to throw you a curveball, see if you can act on the fly here, but I figure let's go ahead and start with that. And then what we can do is we can talk about it with those plays, why we're on them, and what alternate kind of chalkiness that is surrounding that's causing us to kind of go that direction. And we won't talk as much about like the clear and obvious like chalky like game stack types of situations. We know, like people want to listen to that, they can listen to the Wolfpack. I think they covered it really well. So without further ado, let's jump in. And what we can do is we can just start with like just kind of go through running backs, quarterbacks, wide receivers, and just kind of talk about whoever we want to talk about. And guys, if you guys have any questions or if there are specific players that you're interested in kind of our take on, just post them in the chat, and we'll if we have anything to talk about them, we'll bring them up.
All right. And any general questions that you have in DFS related, we can do those as well. Whatever you guys have, we can take advantage of. Both Hunter and I have a lot of experience in large field GPPs as well as qualifiers. So if you guys have questions with regards to those, we can answer them as well.
Sorry, there's something in my wall, I think. I just like getting this weird noise behind me. Just for those people that are new, that don't kind of know what this pod's about or what our deal is about. This is definitely GPP focused. When we talk about off chalk, this is for GPPs. This is for qualifier ticket, chasing. This is for the kind of like, silly with the millie kind of deal. What we try to do is rather than just pick plays because they're low ownership or whatever, we want to pick plays that are smart, that are good plays, but happen to have lower ownership for whatever reason. Typically, it's going to be like a perceived bad matchup or the guys, coming in off of an injury and nobody wants to play them or whatever situation, and we have maybe a different take on it that's causing us to kind of have some interest in those plays. And those are really where you can get big advantages on the field. When you really want to try to take down a tournament, you got to really leverage some of those plays. You can't be like, occasionally, yes, your cash lineup can take a win, and that's happened to me before, but you still have to have some amount of pivot to a lower ownership play. Otherwise, the likelihood of you getting all the nuts with the full on chalk lineups is pretty low. All right, cool. Let's jump in. Let's see. I was thinking we could, quarterbacks are always kind of weird because, chalkiness with quarterbacks, it's hard to really, aside from the big game stack kind of lineups, they're really all kind of off chalk. But if we want to start there, we can talk about a few of the games that aren't quite as game stacky obvious, that would be a bit more off chalk quarterback wise, and start with that. You want to start off, Burns, with a couple of the quarterbacks you're looking at this week?
So of course we know that Watson and Wilson are in great spots, and they have their own adages that go with them and why they make them such great spots. But one that pops off the page for me, and it's a game that I've looked at a little bit, and I'll be looking at it more intently here before lock on Sunday, is the Tennessee-Tampa Bay game. Currently, we have Jameis Winston at a 0.82% ownership, which is extremely low. And we also have Ryan Tannehill at 6%. I love.
Yeah, oddly enough, he's getting a lot of attention, and I'm seeing Corey Davis and AJ Brown also getting a decent amount. Like week to like, everybody's just like Tannehill believers all of a sudden. Like it's like and hopefully like the ownership stays down lower than it actually is, because I'm a little bit surprised to see it that high, and it I guess it's just because I think that is kind of high, 8% or whatever
Right.
He's at is kind of high for a quarterback in general, but especially for basically the backup quarterback. I mean, we know that Tannehill was starter in Miami for a long time when he wasn't breaking legs or whatever he was, keeping him out of the games. But I definitely have interest in this game. I like it. I think that there's a lot of fantasy goodness there, and I am a believer as well. But I don't think it's going to be quite as lower ownership as we would hope it to be for the types of plays that we're going to be playing there. So, I kind of feel like, it is a little bit chalky in the regard that I think a lot of sharps are playing it, but it's one of those situations where I don't know if it's, if this is, I won't call those plays chalky at this point. I think maybe Corey Davis and AJ Brown might be a little bit chalkier than I would like them to be, but
right.
It's one of those situations where we talked about it here at the Army, and I thought that it sounded like it was going to be a good sneaky kind of play, and I think people are just playing the Tampa Bay part of this, and that's why it's got that attention to it. It's just Tampa Bay just sucks so bad that they give so much points up. So I was hoping that it become a little bit lower ownership, and we'll have to see how it runs tomorrow. But if it stays with all those guys, under or around that 8% mark, then I'm just going to go ahead and pull the trigger on it and go. If it gets much higher than that, if it starts to break into the double digits, then I may avoid the situation, because I think that I'm not sure. I won't avoid it completely. I'll probably just be under on it, and take my chances some other places.
Yeah, I do like the Tampa Bay side right now in terms of their ownership. We have Godwin. We have Godwin at 4.66%, as well as Mike Evans at 4.19% ownership.
Yeah, Mike Evans is and Godwin are both coming in to way too low ownership for in my opinion. So I love loading up on both of those guys, especially Evans. I think he's burned people enough recently that his ownership is lower, and he's cheaper, and he's just too cheap for the kind of receiver that you're getting for him, with there. And yeah, I mean, he can, he has those down games and stuff like that, but when he puts them up big, he just puts them up huge. So
absolutely,
I like that call.
Absolutely, and there's a key injury in this game that could have some effect on the tight end side of this game. Delaney Walker is out for week 8, so his backup tight end is Jonnu Smith, and right now we have his ownership at 1.27%. And then on the other side of the ball, for the Tampa Bay side, OJ Howard was ruled out for week 8. Mm-hmm. And we also have Cameron Brate. I sent a DM into the Geek Slack channel that with OJ Howard out, Cameron Brate becomes a viable tight end in this game, with Tennessee being the number 27 defense against the tight end position on the season.
Yeah, I definitely like Brait here better than I like Jono Smith, but I think you can play either one at a significantly discount. We'll have to see how they kind of pan out tomorrow, but like they're now they're both so low that it's like they're good, and there's a lot of value plays right now at tight end this week. And I mentioned this to Geek in the channel that I think I'm just going to be paying up a bit at my running back positions and even maybe some of my wide receivers and punting some of these low plays at tight end, just because I think there's a lot of low cost options that are available that have high upside. And now, again, this is not necessarily stuff that, these are plays that I'm going to be going to primarily in all my GPP, right? Qualified chasers, those types of things. I think that there's some good value to be had there. I do like a few of the tight ends at the higher end of that spectrum as well. I mean, clearly the guys, that you're going to be on with the heavy chalk are going to be the Wallers, the Hoopers, are going to be kind of at the top end of that. Kittle and Ingram are going to still get like close to like that 10% that they've been getting, even at like the reduced prices that they're coming in at, which they're not that reduced, but like they're lower than some of these other guys now. They're finally pricing those guys kind of like according to the production. I don't mind going back to Ingram this week after he burned everybody last week, but he's still kind of coming in a little bit too high ownership wise to kind of pay up for that much there. So
and one thing I would like to look at is actually Woods Boley's question in terms of Hawkinson at tight end this week, since we are talking about tight ends in general right now. Hawkinson is a good play this week, but know that he, in that game, when you look at that game for Detroit, that he's probably going to be their third option. Kenny Golladay is going to probably be the primary option, right? And then it goes to Marvin Jones, and then Hawkinson is going to be the third choice in that game.
Golladay,
in terms of the passing,
Golladay is right now trending towards like the number one most owned wide receiver on the slate. So
it's because the DFS community is getting smarter and smarter every year, and they're learning that because MJJ blew up last week, the best play is to pivot to the guy that was overowned last week and burned everybody. So it's becoming harder and harder to do pivots like this on a week-to-week basis. So it may be advisable, depending on ownership, if Golladay is going to be if he's going to be this high owned and MJJ may not be as high owned, it may be best to go and stay with MJJ. But until I see the ownerships tomorrow to get a better feel.
I mean, I'm looking at MJJ. I'm not sure what we have him at the Army. I was looking at some other projections, but like he's coming in still pretty low considering how he blew up last week. And if that stays like he's at, I think we're probably around 6% or something like that.
6.5,
if that stays that way, like, I don't have any problem going back to him this week. That's like, he's a good receiver, like, and he does have, games where it was ridiculous, 4 touchdowns or whatever he did. But he's not going to have another game like that this year. But, we have seen some of these guys, these go deep type guys, produce back-to-back weeks, like we've seen Fuller do it. We've seen, multiple guys that have, put up a 40-point week and then come back the next week and got you another 24 or whatever. And it doesn't feel as good as the 40, but, it's still like enough to win tournaments. So have no problem with MJJ, especially at that ownership. I'll be playing my share of Golladay as well. I think, it's the smash spot here. And I really like the other side of this game as well. This is definitely a game stack that I'm going to be targeting this week heavily. Probably my favorite game of the week.
I'm actually glad we pivoted into this game, because I think this game has some extremely great plays on both sides of the ball. And since we're already on the Detroit side, now we're pivoting over to the Giants side.
Yeah.
I think
so. Just to tail off on Detroit, I'm going to play a little bit of Hawkinson here. The Giants don't profile as well against tight ends in general, but one thing we will note is that Darius Slay is going to be out for this game, so I think that opens up some opportunities on the Giants side that might not have been quite as good. But the fact that that is happening on from a Detroit cornerback perspective, and the higher kind of scoring back and forth likelihood of this game, I think puts all of these pass catchers into play. And we've seen Hawkinson can do really well. He's been dropping passes, which is very frustrating, especially in the end zone. And I think it's only a matter of time before that stops or that occurs. But we've seen some of these tight ends in frustratingly dropping passes kind of situations. And I think we had that issue with.
He was a good tight end for Iowa. He was really good tight end for them, actually. Him and Noah Fant were both good, and he's a rookie, and he's going to have some growing pains along there. So he did win $1 million for somebody in week 1. So could it be that again this week? Sure. I mean, it could happen.
All right, well, let's pivot over to the Giants side, because I know we want to talk about a little bit of this game. Obviously, Tate's going to be he's really not trending right now super high ownership-wise, which is a little bit odd. You'd think that I think this is because Detroit right now kind of appears or books at a relatively good pass defense, and they're poor against the run. That's their MO. Which is why everybody's going to be rolling out Saquon Barkley. He's going to be coming out pretty heavily owned. And I think that's going to be the typical stack, is the Saquon Barkley and Detroit pass catchers from a stacking perspective. But there's some opportunities here against the pass, especially with Darius Slay out, that I think it would be a mistake to avoid. I like Tate. I like I said before, I like going back to Ingram, and I even like Amendola. He's going to come in super low owned as well. So really, those are the guys. I mean, you could talk about Darius Slayton or somebody of those other guys, but really, I think if the ownership's going to be that low on Tate, I'd rather just take him.
In complete agreement with you. I did look at it. I just looked at the percentage of ownership on Saquon right now, and it's 7.6. I mean, that's going to go up before lock, obviously. He's in a good spot against this Detroit Lions defense. I do like the pivot back to Ingram in this position.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like actually taking a Stafford Galladay or a Stafford MJJ stack and rolling it back with either Tate or Ingram in this spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Touchdowns in this game.
Actually, I'm showing Barkley on this other. I kind of I use both our projections and I use Fantasy Data's projections right now. I look at a few different sources just to see kind of where some of those are coming in at, so I know if we're missing something or whatever. Ours don't get updated till Saturday, so that they're old. They're from Wednesday, so they're not super up to speed on what's been going on. But Barkley right now, I'm showing around 14. I think it's even probably going to be a little bit higher. He's pretty high priced, so 8,900 it's going to be hard for people to get him into their lineup. So I think his ownership will be a little bit lower in general than if he was, in around 8. But he's still gaining a lot of, that's still sort of chalky, anything kind of I think above 15% or something like that might be, in the chalk. But I love Saquon Barkley here. I think he's probably going to be my heaviest owned of maybe not heaviest, but like close to heaviest, maybe top 2 running backs for the week. It's going to be him and Gurley are probably going to be where I go.
Yeah, and with ownership on running backs, I'm not afraid to eat chalk on running backs.
No, that's actually where I eat all my chalk. I usually go fairly chalky with the running back, and I might pivot to a lower, a stud in a slightly worse position. Last week it was like Latavius Murray, stuff like that, where you got kind of like a perceived bad matchup, but a guy who's getting all the volume. I love those types of situations because especially if they're going to come in relatively low owned. But there is a guy that I want to talk about that's kind of come in like that for this week, and not quite the volume, but we'll talk about him in a minute. Let's wrap up on this game because, I think that this has a ton of fantasy goodness. I think you can stack it a bunch of different ways and really make value. The guy that is the chalkiest that we're not really talking about is Ty Johnson. I don't think we need to talk about him much, but I'm going to be off that chalk. I don't play Detroit running backs, but
I'm with you on that. And I think if I use them, it's only going to be in a cash game.
I think he's probably a lock for cash just because of his price point and the fact that, they got McKissick, but he's really the only other guy there. So,
and if I do use them in GPPs, it'll probably be 5% ownership. That's about it.
Yeah.
But I do like the Amendola call. I think it's a really good call.
Yep.
I do like that call because the Giants against the middle of the field short, they're 25th against the middle of the field short passes. And Amendola is typically a slot receiver. And, are the Giants going to get up the field and force Stafford to make a lot of pressured throws? Probably not in this game, but if he needs to make a quick dump off to over the middle of the field, he's going to either go to Hawkinson or he's going to go to Amendola, and then he'll hit the streaking MJJ or Galladay down the field more likely than not. So Amendola is a good play in this game. I do like all 3 of the wide receivers in this game a lot.
Okay, great. That's I think that we covered this game pretty good. The only other thing I'd mention is I think that Detroit defense is in play here, as well as Daniel Jones. Now, you wouldn't play those together, but I think both of those are definitely playable here. The Daniel Jones is going to be come in at a much lower ownership for a game that we think can stack pretty well. He hasn't played really well lately, so I think he's got some rushing upside as well, which I like. So I don't mind going back to him here, even though he's burned me for the last couple of weeks. So
and the Giants have actually given up 20 sacks on the year, so that lends right to utilizing the Detroit Lions defense in this game. Though they have a low adjusted sack rate on the year for the Lions, but with the Giants giving up 20 sacks on the year, I don't see why you couldn't use them. But being the Detroit Lions defense, they're slay out of that. I'm probably going to lower my ownership in the Lions defense in this game.
Right. All right, Jason, so DFSArmy has projections that we do. They're both in our research station and in our domination station, and they're loaded up each week, so you can see where we're kind of projecting those at. I also look at, I have a subscription to Fantasy Data because I use that for a lot of the API stuff I do from some of my tools that I built. They have it's pretty new actually that they just started doing projections for players, and they also have ownership projections in there. So I use that as kind of a double check kind of thing as well. And I'm sure a few of the other guys pull from some of the other sites as well to look at some of those. But ownership projections are pretty shit until Saturday anyway. So
It is a good idea to get multiple sources on ownership projections if you feel the need to.
Yeah.
The ownership projections from DFSArmy are solid, very, very solid, week in and week out. And if you feel like you need to look at other sites' ownerships, I mean, you're going to have to pay for that service to be able to get that.
Yeah.
But if you feel the need that you need to do that, by any means, go and do it. I mean, it's a service available to you if you want to do if you want to subscribe to like a 4for4 or fantasy data, or the conglomerate roto grinders. So but
Yeah, everybody has their own kind of deal, and they have a variety of different ways that they do it. We here at the Army, we've got a lot of different folks working on different aspects of this, and so NFL is one of the of our key sports that we really make sure that we've got the most up to date information about. So
yeah, if anything,
definitely worth. Yeah,
they
definitely
could
worth
do
it.
a median on the percentage of ownership across all the sites too, if they wanted to give a true depiction of how the ownership's going to be across the slates on all of these
Yeah.
subscription services.
All right. Well, let's keep going. So we were talking about quarterbacks, and we kind of got onto the most popular game of the week somehow. But let's talk about our kind of like lower focus. You mentioned the Tannehill, obviously, with the Tennessee or Winston and Tannehill at the Tennessee Tampa Bay game. I like that game. I definitely think I'll be having some stacks of that. We talked about Brait, Jonnu Smith, Corey Davis, all of those guys. Pretty much everybody on that team or on that game right now is coming in under 10. So that's good if it stays there like that. What other games are you looking at? Are there any other ones that are aside from, let's say, the Detroit Giants, the Seattle, Atlanta, and the Houston Oakland game, which are going to be the most popular, I think, stacked games this week, just due to the high over unders. I think there are a few maybe off chalk plays. We could talk about the off chalk plays of those games if there are any that you feel like strongly about. The only ones that I think I feel like I want to get involved in for, like, say, the Houston Oakland game. I don't mind taking some shots with Tyrell Williams or even maybe Keelan Doss in that game. I think that Oakland's going to have to pass a bit more, and we've seen that all go to Waller recently, but Tyrell's been out hurt. He should be back. He's supposed to play in this game. He's been out since like week 4. So if he comes back, I think that he's definitely a playable guy here. Houston gives up points to the wide receiver. We're projecting Oakland to pass for about 260 or so. This should be a pretty heavy pass type game. And we have seen running backs struggle against Houston's run defense. Some of, it hasn't been as great lately, but they've been okay against that. So Jacobs is going to be, I think, a fairly popular play. And Waller's is going to be probably uber chalk as well. But I like the Tyrell Williams side of things. Keelan Doss a little bit less, just because we really just haven't even with Williams out, we haven't seen much from him. 50 yards or so. They're just not passing to the wide receivers there. So Tyrell is really the only good guy that they have from a wide receiver perspective.
Yeah.
On the other side, everything's chalk except maybe Kuti, but I'm not really that interested there.
Yeah, I'm not interested in Kuti in this game at all. My ownership in this game on the Houston side from a wide receiver perspective is probably going to land right on Hopkins as well as Stills.
Both those guys are going to be super chalk, but
they sure are. And I do like the Terrell call here. The Army right now has him at 2%.
Yeah, he's going to be pretty low.
And when he was actually in there, Carr was actually looking for him. If you look,
Carr likes him, and I actually like Carr a little bit here as well. Doing, kind of getting away from Watson maybe and taking it back with Carr, doing a Carr Williams Waller stack and bringing it back with the Hopkins Stills combo.
That'll be really low owned.
I don't know if it will be that low owned. I think people will stack it that way just because like this is a game that people are going to be stacking. But it'll be less owned, I think. There'll definitely be a lot more Waller, Hopkins, Watson combos and Stills mixed in there. But I like that situation. I think that this game has that kind of upside potential there. And I don't really like either running back. I mean, they're both playable, Hyde and Jacobs, but I'm not sold on either one of them this week. I think that the running backs kind of maybe profile a little bit better than the matchup warrants in this particular case. So I'll have some ownership there, but not a ton.
Yeah, if you went with I just put this into a DraftKings lineup here.
Mm-hmm.
If you went with Derek Carr,
ooh, this is good. Live lineup building. Let's see it, Burns. Put it up on the screen. No, I don't want to like expose your budget, but let's see.
So if you were looking to build a stack that may go lower owned than your Watson, Stills, and Hopkins stacks, Derek Carr. You start with Derek Carr. He's at 5K on DraftKings. Then you go to Hopkins at 8.1K, Tyrell Williams at 5.5K, and then Darren Waller at 5.9K in the tight end spot. You have 5.1K per position after that.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, that leaves you five positions left. Put
Saquon in there.
Yeah, let's see. So if I put Saquon in there in running back spot, so that puts us at 4.15K left. Now,
all right, let's grab a cheap defense and put Todd Gurley in and see what we got left for the wide receivers.
That's okay, what I would do. Say I'm looking. Let's see what we got for defenses here towards the bottom. A defense that
I like Indy.
Indy is in a great spot. They're at 2.9K. Another one at 2.9K that it's in a great spot is the Jaguars as well. I think they're going to be more owned than Indy, but $100 more is Buffalo at 3,000. But one that I've been looking at, and I need to do a little bit more research on this before Sunday's lock, is I'm looking at the Cleveland Browns at 2,000, and here's why. Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward are coming back this week. I have not updated the wide receiver cornerback charts for them yet, as well as for Darius Slay being out, but that's going to be updated prior to
that's a bold call right there. We're gonna mark this down. Cleveland.
I will say this
against New England.
I'll say this: Denzel Ward last year was a shutdown corner.
Yeah, those guys are both good.
He didn't when Denzel went up for the Browns last year. He was not. No one threw his side of the field because he shut it down. So who's he going to be paired with? He's going to be paired probably with either Dorsett or Sanu. He doesn't venture into the slot very often. So it'll be interesting to see where Denzel Ward goes to. And then Greedy Williams on the other side of the field. He's a really good corner, and he was a really good corner for LSU last year in college. So and when I watched the draft this past April, and I saw his draft just keep going down and down and down into the second round, and the Browns grabbed him. I'm like, whoa, that could be the steal of the draft right there. But it's just say because with the Browns, they got Myles Garrett, he's gonna put a serious rush on Tom Brady. What do we know about Tom Brady? He's not a mobile quarterback. And when we get to this game, there's a play in this game that could actually be
let's talk about it. Let's talk about it right now.
I think the key play in the Patriots game could be James White in the backfield.
Absolutely.
With Myles Garrett putting a major pass rush onto
you don't think Sony Michel's going to fall into the end zone 3 times in a freaking row?
He could. But I think the defense for the Browns hasn't been as good as it's been for the year is because Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams have been out, and they've been susceptible to passes.
They've actually done okay against the pass. Realistically, they're better than average against the pass. They've really just been giving it up on the ground, which makes me or to the running backs really, but also just rushing wise. It makes me like James White, even Sony Michel to some extent. I mean, I hate rostering him just because he's so painful right now to roster and he doesn't catch any balls. But I'm all about White this week. And I think if I'm Belichick, he's a smart dude. So like he knows what's happening there with Cleveland, and he knows how to attack that defense. So yeah, there's no reason that they're especially I think considering with the whole Sanu thing, I don't really like playing any of these wide receivers without knowing how they're going to work him into that offense. So, I mean, if I'm going to pick somebody, it's going to be Edelman, and he's coming to receiver, so I don't mind playing him a bit here, but I really don't. Right. I think he's around 8%, so it's not super low, but he's like under 10. So, but yeah, load me up on White. We saw White have basically 3 opportunities to score in that last game, and due to penalties and or missing by like an inch to the pylon or whatever, like he's on the cusp of having a blow up game, and he hasn't had one really this year. So he's such a consistent like 14-point running back kind of guy. I think you could almost play this guy in cash. I like the call. I will be running him in tournaments this week. I'm hoping for a good, one of those blow up type situations where he does get into the end zone 1 or 2 times. Because if that happens, he breaks that 20 threshold, and it's goodness.
Yeah, and with the Cleveland defense, so they have 19 sacks on the year. New England doesn't give up many sacks, but they do have 11 sacks on the year given up. So Tom Brady has been sacked this year.
Yeah.
What I'll be interested to see is Cleveland is giving up 4.63 adjusted line yards right now. But here's
to the rush.
Yeah. Here's the kicker why I like James White in this game. They're the number 30th ranked defense against open field ranked running backs. So what's that mean? That means that a running back can get down the field. They can on a screen pass catch it, and they basically are running for daylights.
I see what you're working your way towards. Sorry, go ahead. You cut out a bit. I see where you're working your way to a Chubb call here, but
no,
really?
I got a boatload of him in season long, and I don't know if I want. I got to look at the New England side of the ball too, but
oh, you're talking about Cleveland.
Yeah. Like Cleveland's open field rank is 30th.
Oh,
so, okay. White looks good here, but I think a lot of that why they're ranked number 30th in the open field ranking is that San Francisco they just murdered them that game out in San Francisco with Breida and Coleman. So I think a lot of that has to do with that. But Brady does love James White when he has a heavy pass rush like Cleveland could put on him on Sunday. Myles Garrett's he's no joke.
I mean,
he's a great pass rusher.
the only potential downside to the play is if Rex Burkhead ends up playing, and we still have to kind of wait and hear about that. But
Yeah.
I think that's definitely going to take a hit to White, and I'll probably have to get off of him if that happens, just due to the uncertainty there, and how they're going to play that. But if he's out, I like White a ton here. So,
yeah,
all right,
if he is, but also with the Sony Michel call. Before we got on, I was running a lot of Domination Station, just see what the Dom station was doing.
Is it spitting just Sony out?
Yeah. I couldn't believe how much it was I wasn't running it with any stacks. I was just seeing what it was giving me. And I do that a lot to see what the Dom station's just going to give me. And then maybe I wasn't on that play enough, and maybe I needed to get more on that play, any given week. It can
I like
change.
that. Actually, that's a really good thing for our listeners that just if you guys are in the Army and you run in the Dom station, it's always a good thing just to check it out. Uncheck all your players that you're just not interested in or whatever, and then just run it plain and just see who's popping, just to see who the Dom likes, because like those are a lot of times really key players. And it's always what happens to me. Happens to me a lot actually, and I need to stop doing it. But is I'll go and I'll start adjusting everything because I'm like, oh, it's way too much Sony Michel, and I gotta like drop them and stuff like that. And then right, he blows up, and you're like, why did I do that?
Yeah. He was popping in it, and with Cleveland's adjusted line yards of 4.63, they are ranked with that. They are ranked number 28. So maybe Sony Michel the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the reason is, with he can't coming in off that big game, and so maybe he's getting a bit higher projection due to that. But I mean, he's priced like $100 more than James White, so like between the two of them, I like White more just on DraftKings just because of the passing upside there. And realistically, if you watch that game last week, that it could have gone significantly different. I mean, the stat line shows Sony did everything, but realistically, he had like 40 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. They literally smashed him against the goal line 3 times in a row. It's just painful to watch. But he got the points, but James White did the bulk of the work there from a running back perspective. So,
and another guy in this game that's really not popping to mind like immediately, but if Burkhead's out, another guy you got to worry about is Brandon Bolden in this game too. They seem to go to him.
I mean, only on the single game slate. You're not going to play this guy in the main slate. So he just, he comes in for like 3, 4, or 5, whatever plays a game, and he steals a touchdown away from somebody and that kind of situation. But but he's not a guy you're going to put into any of your GPP lineups.
I'm not playing him. It's just he steals those touches and touchdowns he steals them from Sony Michel, because that's how Sony gets all his touchdowns down by the goal line. But if they put Brandon Bolden in there, touchdown was supposed
we're probably covering New England way too much, considering maybe the smart play is just you don't play any of the New England players because they just spread it around too much. But
I'm probably not going to play much of them at all. It's just I was looking at that Cleveland defense, and at 2,000, they don't have to do much to get to make not value there.
Yeah. Jason, I like the Chargers against the Bears. I like anybody playing the Bears, to be honest. They just suck so bad offensively. Let's see where are they coming in at right now. Price wise, Chargers are 2,300. Yeah. So great price. On
I like their offense too.
Yeah. There's some plays. Actually, let's talk about that real quick, because there's an off chalk play here that I think is in a great spot, and that is Austin Eckler. From a running back perspective, he's priced down now because Gordon's back. Here's the thing: why I like this play. and we saw this last week a little bit with Latavius Murray, just beating up on on the Chicago. But Chicago's still, excuse me, hold on. Sorry. Chicago's still like perceived as this elite, like both run defense and pass defense, and they have not been as good lately. And we have to check the status of who's the run stopper there.
Hicks.
Hicks, yes, thank you, Keem Hicks. We need to check the stop, but I really don't know that matters that much because Eckler's going to do his damage via the pass, right? He's not in there for the rushing upside anymore. And I think the way that you beat the Chicago defense is through pass catching running backs, as opposed to just pounding them down the middle kind of thing. I don't think this is as good of a Gordon spot as an Eckler type situations. And we've seen really Chargers not be very effective at running the ball down the middle anyway. So he's coming in right now. Eckler is projecting around like 8 or 9% ownership. I think that's a pretty good ownership percentage, and I think it might even come in a little bit lower than that just because of Chicago. I don't know. We'll see because Latavius Murray did well against them last week. Like it may get a little bit higher ownership than it normally would, but I think that's a great kind of lower pivot, and he's in that like 50 something 100 range, I think, pricing wise.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see Hicks this week. I think he's going to be out again.
Yeah, let me see what his price was because it was pretty attractive looking for the quality we get from. I keep getting the wrong screen going here. Okay, here it is. Running backs. Yeah, so Eckler's coming in he's 5,900. So he's right there around guys like Josh Jacobs, who's going to get a lot of ownership. Even Latavius Murray, 5,800, is going to get a lot of ownership, I think. Guys above him, maybe a little bit less in that Marlon Mack, Derrick Henry zone kind of thing, but he's kind of like the guy that I want to fall to. And the nice thing is that, when you look at him in DraftKings or whatever, he's still got that like red number next to him due to the Chicago's kind of opponent ranked against running back situation. So they're still coming in as ranked well, but I like that situation there. I think that's going to be a good low ownership play that we can go to, and who knows? Like, I don't know. They may just decide to put Gordon in all the time, and we won't get the kind of upside we need from Eckler. But that's one of the things. What was the part play in this game that you were looking at?
I actually I like Mike Williams in this game at 4,000 on draft.
Yeah,
I think he's a good play.
He's going to be so high owned.
He is
at that price.
He will be,
especially with Keenan Allen banged up. I think he's going to. They're saying he's going to be on a snap count, so
he would have been a better play if Keenan Allen was actually full go on this. He would have been a better play, but with Keenan Allen, that's going to probably take me off of Mike Williams in this game. On the other side of the ball, as a wide receiver, I like Robinson in this game too. I think he's a good play. And
yeah, he's going to be pretty low owned, I think, as well. So you can get Robinson, who's just kind of a stud, for pretty low ownership. So I love it when you can get low ownership studs for, problem is they really just have, crappy quarterback thrown to him, but he can put up a good game. So yeah, I like the Robinson call there. Chargers have a decent set of cornerbacks, but I think there's some opportunities there for Robinson. We've seen in the past that he gets enough volume and he can turn some big plays. So I don't mind having a good, a decent little share of him from this game.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think of Montgomery in this game?
I'm not playing him.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about him either. When I was doing the Dom station earlier, he was popping a little bit, and I think that's probably because he's only 4.4K on DraftKings.
Yeah, he's cheap. He gets bulk of the work, and and really the Chargers haven't been like, if they have a weakness, it's against the running back defensively. So, I could play him a little bit. I just you know what? I'm going to write his name down here. I might take a few shares of him, but I'm really not good. He's not a guy that's popping for me right now as a top play.
Yeah, I'm not going to go out of my way to put him in any of my lineups. I mean, if I have a lineup where I want to play, like, I don't know, say I want to play Julio and DeAndre Hopkins together, maybe I get a little lower ownership on Julio, and maybe if Ryan is out and Matt Schaub is going to be the quarterback there, maybe I get that little niche there where I want to go towards two higher price wide receivers in the same lineup. You're not going to be able to afford too many high priced running backs in that situation. So you're going to have to look for a lower priced running back, and maybe Montgomery fits the bill, but I don't know. There might be better plays on this slate where you can still get the two high priced wide receivers in there, but going middle of the road with like an Eckler instead and some other middle of the road priced running backs like James White, Eckler together, and then in your flex you go with like a $4,000 wide receiver, or punt the flex to Cameron Brate, or you could even punt the tight end position this week to Cameron Brate at 2.7K. So yeah, it depends on your build, how you want to build. But
what do you think of not to jump off this game too much here, but want to pivot over to one of the other high-owned games, high-stack games for the week, and just see if there's on the Atlanta-Seattle side, we've got a really high total here, and I keep going back and forth on this game because I could think, I think it could be a much lower total than what's being projected. However, I wanted to get your opinion on Schaub. If I want to go ahead and say, okay, I believe this over under, and even at a -7 that Seattle is giving, the if we want to believe a 52 point over under or whatever it is, I think it's up to even higher than that now. We got to like Schaub. They're not. What are they going to do? Run Freeman all the time? I can't see a scenario like, if you want to believe that this is a 52 point, 53, 54 point game where Schaub's not the better play than Wilson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's coming in right now at like 1 or 2% ownership in the highest total game of the slate. So, yeah, I mean, why not run him if you believe in that? Now, I don't know that I'm sold yet on that. This is like, I could see this game being a 40-point game just as easily as a 54-point game. But if we would, I mean, if you're in the idea of like believing that this is a high scoring game, then you might as well run Schaub, bring him out with Julio and Ridley, Hooper, all those guys, right? I mean, those are all going to be high owned dudes. I don't know how we can have high owned Julios, Ridleys, Hoopers, and then nobody's rostering Shop.
Yeah, that it wouldn't make sense.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, clearly people are doing Wilson stacks and bringing it back with that, but you know, like that's going to be a play. But I mean, let me just bring up the ownership. I don't have the chalk ownership here, but let's just look at the let me just look at Julio because I know he was in the top 3. Yeah, Julio's coming in close to 20%. Like, yeah, I mean, how are you going to be 20% on Julio and his quarterback is going to be under 2%? Like, I don't think that's going to. We'll see tomorrow, but like if that's the case, man, load me up. I don't mind taking a swing at the plate there.
Yeah.
Do we have confirmation that Ryan is fully out?
I haven't got confirmation yet. On Roto World, he's still questionable.
Okay. Maybe that's what's holding down this ownership right now is that we're waiting.
Yeah, and
maybe it's getting split between Ryan and Schaub.
Yeah, and the line is 53 with a 3.5. So
yeah, that's gone up. When I pulled mine, it was only 51.5, so it's up 2 points, which is pretty crazy. Ryan, yeah, so they're still showing Ryan's questionable for what. We'll see.
Matt Schaub is 4.7K on DraftKings. So
yeah, crazy. Yeah, crazy low. Yeah, so let's see how that plays out. But if Ryan's out, I don't, and we're projecting ownership that low. Yeah, I mean, I like that a lot. There's not really any other. Oh, actually, there is a guy that I wanted to talk about in this game that's going to be low owned, and that's Hollister. I don't know if you've done any research on this guy, but
6 targets last week.
Yeah, we had talked about this on the pod last week, and we didn't really think that going to who's the other guy there is like some other like veteran dude that we were like, yeah, I don't think he's going to slot into that Will Disley role. And yeah, all of a sudden now, Luke Wilson.
Luke Wilson, yeah,
been around for a while. But then Hollister comes out and gets all the targets. We know that Wilson likes these tight ends when he finds one that he likes. We saw that early on with Disley, and I think that this is a potential opportunity here to get on a guy before he has a huge blow up week. So this is one of my value tight end plays on the week that I'm going to be looking at. And probably working into my mix. There's a few of those low priced guys that I'm going to be mixing up. And I like this play here, especially considering Atlanta does give up a decent amount of points to the tight end. I mean, their defense is pretty crap all the way around, but they give up a lot of points to both the wide receivers and the tight end. So I like that as a super low owned play that has some potential to be pretty high upside.
Yeah, he didn't do much with the targets. I mean, he had 3 receptions for 20 yards. But
it doesn't look fantastic on paper with what he got. I like the target volume. Like that's what I'm playing right there, and I like a guy like that better than a guy that got 2 targets and 60 yards, right? Yeah. Because at least I know that he's gonna throw to him. And the problem is that he's getting as much volume as all of the guys on that team. Like Tyler Lockett. I mean, I got to pay 70-something hundred for Tyler Lockett, and he's running deeper routes, but I'll take the tight end that gets the same amount of volume for nothing. I mean, he may not do anything with him, but I'm playing the thing here is I'm playing the volume, and I'm playing the fact that I'm a believer that Russell Wilson will pass to the tight end.
Yeah, and to look at who Russell Wilson has to throw to, you got Lockett, you got Jaron Brown, DK Metcalf, and more. I mean,
yeah, there's a lot of
gosh.
there's a lot of options there, and there's that's why like playing like none of those guys is is pretty much the weak play every week is like don't play any of the pass catchers really,
Yeah.
for Seattle, just because he spreads it so evenly around that it's almost impossible for any of those guys to make value. And that was the biggest reason actually last week that I got off of that Seattle Baltimore game. I was like, I can't see a path to success playing either side of these. There's just on one side you got the guy spreading it around to everybody, and on the other side you got the guy that basically only has one target to throw it to. Yeah.
Yeah, and a good way to play this game is if you don't think Wilson, if you can't nail that Wilson receiver that you think he's going to go to with the bulk of his throws in the game, you could play Wilson naked.
Oh yeah,
and then run it back with you could run it back with Julio.
And that's going to be a very, very popular stack like that. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know about the like completely naked, but yeah, I mean, Wilson's definitely one of the guys that you can always play naked just due to the rushing upside that he brings.
Right.
Plus the fact that he kind of spreads it around. There's a few of those guys. Brady's another one that he doesn't have the rushing upside, although he does like quarterback sneaks occasionally. Just those guys that tend to spread the ball around so evenly are ones that I don't mind playing naked, especially in cash. More kind of a cash play for me than GPP. But all right, cool. Let's move on. Is there any other like lower kind of owned quarterback plays that you were really kind of looking at this week?
One I'm looking at is probably Gardner Minshew. He right now he's pretty low owned in the projections for DFSArmy. So Gardner Minshew could have I think he's in a good spot here against the Jets, but with his ownership, where's he at? He's at 1.5% ownership. You could stack him with, what you could do with this game is a little, you could do Leonard Fournette with him, Leonard Fournette out of the backfield. If you think Leonard Fournette's going to get some receptions out of the backfield, you could also pair him with either D.D. Westbrook or DJ Shark. But Gardner Minshew in this game is pretty good. And on the other side of this game, I like Le'Veon Bell as well. The reason why I do like Le'Veon Bell in this game is because, let me get his name here. Marcel Darius is out. So Marcel Darius is a run stuffer. So with him being out on the defensive line, could open up some opportunities for Le'Veon Bell in this game. So
yeah, I like Bell.
Jalen Ramsey.
I think Bell,
Jalen Ramsey's not there anymore. So
yeah, Bell's coming in
some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I like the pass catchers here too, but Bell's coming in pretty low for what he brings to the table. I think around 11% I'm showing right now, maybe a little bit. That may change a bit, but I mean, Fournette's still projecting as super chalk, so yeah, even in this particular situation, it's not quite as good as it has been, just because the Jets generally are pretty good at stopping the run. We did see, like, even though Sony got in 3 times against them, they weren't able to actually run the ball, like, from a rushing perspective. Like, they didn't rush against the Jets well at all. Like, I think they only had like a total of like 60 yards total or something like that rushing. But the running backs were still like successful, and I had talked about this actually in my write-up on the Jets, was that they stop the rushing yards. They can hold people to rushing yards, but they can't prevent them from getting into the end zone because the running backs are they're scoring rushing touchdowns against this team. And I was like, that just sounded a lot like Sony Michel on the goal line pounding it in. And sure enough, it played out exactly how I had written it. And I don't know why I got off Sony when I was doing my King of the Beach. I don't even want to talk about it, to be honest. But anyways, the same situation applies, I think, this week here is that the difference is that Leonard Fournette, he's been a bit more effective lately. We've seen that he can, he just gets so much volume so that he can produce with that amount of volume, even in this situation. But he's coming in so high owned that I don't mind not playing him as much this year or this week. I'm going to probably be under ownership on him to the field. But yeah, I like the Bell call here. Watching Bell play against New England, he had some nice runs, like breaking tackles and stuff like that. Like even against that really tough New England defense, and they basically couldn't do anything passing wise. So like, that he's got like, 8 in the box, 9 in the box, like everybody in the box kind of front, like, and he's dancing around him, and he looked pretty good. And he didn't score much, like, rushing yards, but like, I think against a much softer Jacksonville rush defense here, I think Bell is in a much better spot, and I think he's going to come out swinging. So I like the call there. I also like DJ Chark. We might have a minor Westbrook injury, so
right.
Not quite sure how that's going to pan out yet. It looked like a late week injury report type situation, so maybe a hammy or something like that. Not really sure what's going on there, but
let me take a look here. I'll see what Roto World's saying about it right now. He is questionable,
but if he looks like he
to suit up though, according to the coach.
Yeah, I think that it was minor, but if we think that he might be a little bit limited, I definitely like going a bit higher ownership on the DJ Chark, and I like even maybe throwing a few shares of Chris Conley in there. We saw him kind of have a lot more actually targets wise play in the last game, and I'm not sure if that was just a result of the coverage on Chark that caused that, or if this is an indicator of kind of just a sort of shift to utilizing him a bit more. So I don't mind throwing a few shares of him. He's going to be pretty low on, like super duper under 1% owned kind of guy. So and on the Jet side, you can get like Robbie Anderson or even Crowder for next to nothing percentage wise as well. One of those two guys, I think, can have a good game here against Jacksonville due to the fact that Ramsey's not there anymore. But I'm not quite sure who I would rather play, to be honest. I think I would probably just play Bell.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I mean DT, he was getting some run in against New England on Monday night. So could DT have some more run this week? Maybe. But he's more of a screen pass wide receiver, and he gets all of his points off of the yak.
Yeah.
So I'm not into that kind of a play, because it takes a lot for that guy to make value, even though he's at 3.3 or
he's
3.2. He's going to need
pretty frustrating. I mean, they passed
an amount, to be able to make value.
Yeah, it's an interesting play. I'll have to look into that a little bit more. I know he was targeted a lot in that game against New England. He couldn't do much with any of it, but it's a hard game to look at to see because they're just so elite. And man, he did. Sam Darnold did not look great in that game.
Yeah.
Kelly's got a question. Ended up having Marvin. Jay Kelly ended up having Marvin Jones, Chris Galladay, and Ty Johnson play 1, 2, or 3. I assume he's talking about season long here. Yeah, I mean, like, I think you have to make a choice. I don't know that I would play all 3 of those guys in my season long, but I'm not buying into it personally. This is me. I'm not going to tell you anybody what to do with their season long team because I have the same problems as most people. But I'd rather play both Marvin Jones and Galladay together and just avoid the Ty Johnson chalk thing. Assuming that your question is related to season long. If this is daily fantasy, probably have the same advice actually. I mean, Ty Johnson's a little bit less or a little bit harder to fade this week in like cash lineups and stuff like that, just due to his price point. But I don't play Detroit running backs. I don't play Tampa Bay running backs. I've said this kind of like for the entire season, and it's served me pretty well so far. So I'm going to stick to that.
And don't think in that game that the Ty Johnson Detroit Lions stack won't be high owned. It will be high owned.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on. Cool. So I think we covered a lot of the. I've got a bunch, and I really need to parse through them because I don't really know who I like the most from the like lower owned quarterback situations. I have a bit of interest in the Josh Allen, going back to that well a bit. With John Brown and even Cole Beasley and stuff like that. John Brown's coming in right now, super high owned. He's coming off a great game last week, and Philly just sucks against wide receivers, so he projects really high. I don't mind just stacking him up with Josh Allen. I mean, like, if this is the same thing I was saying about Matt Shaw, but don't understand when we project a wide receiver at a high ownership, why his quarterback is also not going to come in at a similarly, or not as similarly, but a proportionally same high ownership. So this is another situation. I'm going to have to dig in a little bit deeper to that game. I didn't have enough time to really dive in as much as I want on that one. I will say my call last week on Duke Williams was a total bust. So sorry about that for anybody who played him. But I still think he's super talented dude. They just don't seem to want to really give him the ball very much yet. So we'll have to just wait and see on him. And he'll probably have a blow up week at some point in the future, and I'll hate myself for not being on him. But I think the only 2 guys that you can play are Cole Beasley and John Brown based off of what they've been doing. Singletary is an option there. Beasley's going to come in really low owned right now because everybody's on John Brown as the key guy, and he's really is the key guy. But Beasley's getting as many targets as they're just short, but he's getting a lot more target, or just as many targets as John Brown in this offense. So really, those are the 2 guys you can get. Beasley though at, let me look here. I had his numbers. Yeah, like 1%. Like, he's so low. And if you like John Brown a ton in this game, you got to like Beasley a little bit.
What do you think about Ertz on the other side?
God, man, I think he's going to be like low owned. I mean, he's not projected that low, but let me see. Actually, I don't have him listed.
He may be the lowest of the 5K tight ends.
Yeah, I think he will be because he's burned so many people. And not completely burned you, but like burned you enough that because you paid up for him and he didn't blow up, have a huge game, that people are just kind of fed up with him. And I think it's a combination of Alshon doing better than expected and Ertz doing a little bit less than expected, them involving Goddard more than they really have had in the past, right? Like, this isn't the old Philadelphia offense that only had Ertz as their tight end to throw to anymore. This is the 2-man combo of Goddard and Ertz, and the volume and production isn't quite there as much for Ertz as it has been in the past. So This is a weird scenario because I before the season started, I was really high on Ertz as like my top target, the guy that I wanted to go after in season long, and he just hasn't been the same tight end that I was expecting. And I think you could probably say the same thing about Kelsey to some extent, but maybe to a little bit lesser extent. But I don't know. I'm okay. I'm okay playing him this week. He doesn't. He's in a hard
really
situation. He's in a hard situation. Buffalo's been actually defended the tight end pretty well position. They've got elite corners. Really, the only way that people have been doing anything against Buffalo is on the ground. So I don't really like it that much. I'd rather take a shot with Alshon.
Yeah, and I don't like how low we have the projected passing yards for in this game for Wentz, where he's projected at 195 yards passing in this game, and I don't like that at all. I mean, under 200 yards, that means, what is that telling me? That's telling me that Buffalo's defense is pretty good and against the pass, and he's not going to have enough time. He's going to get a lot of pressures. He's not going to have enough time to get the ball off. So
I mean, the plays in this game, I think, are on both sides are the defense. Like in Buffalo and Philly, I mean, they're going to be high priced defenses, but they both put a good amount of pressure on the quarterbacks, and they both offensively or offensive line wise don't have anything that's really helping protect those guys very much. So this is just looks like a dirty game. It looks like it's going to be a painful game. So I don't know that I like a whole lot here. There are some interesting things to think about, like on the running back side. Like I kind of like how Miles Sanders has sort of been trending up a bit. It's not the best situation for him here. But if I'm playing somebody on Philly, I'd rather take a shot with Alshon Jeffrey or maybe Miles Sanders. He doesn't. Let me just look at his numbers from last week, because like he did okay, and then but I just don't know. He's still not getting the volume there because they still have Howard doing all the main kind of groundwork, and Sanders is really their pass catching back. But he comes in and gets a decent amount of targets every game. So, and he's been trending up. So I don't hate it.
And he's 4.2K on DraftKings. So.
Yeah, super cheap.
Yeah, he opens up a lot for you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's definitely not like a great play, and he's not a core player or anything like that. But he's somebody that I'm going to consider in that kind of low running back. I'll probably end up going with higher price guys at running back, like I do most weeks. But if I need the value there, if I want to play some of these stud wide receivers like Julio or whatever, I may end up having to drop down and take a guy like that.
He is definitely not making any of my hybrids or cash lineups. Or any of the queues that I'm going after, like your $100 entry queues or anything like that. He's not making any of those.
No, John Brown's the only cash play here in this entire game. So yeah. Anyways, all right, cool. Let's move on. Let's cover some of the. We talked about a lot of the wide receivers as we've covered some of these games. I'm just going to run down my list here, because they kind of just pulled these off as my lower ownership. And when I say lower ownership for wide receivers, I'm talking about guys under 10%, and really under 8, ideally, is what I would consider kind of lower owned. And the guys that are completely off chalk are going to be like the sub 4% kind of dudes. So just coming down my list, let me know if any of these you want to like talk about any of these, but we talked about a few of them. MJJ right now projecting pretty low. We'll see how that pans out tomorrow. I think he's going to come up in ownership. Tate,
he will.
Tate also pretty low right now, around 5 or 6. So both of those guys I like a lot if they stay at those ownerships. Amendola sub 1 like that. Evans, Godwin 5 to 7 on both of those guys, both in stud in not a bad matchup. I like both of those options. This guy. Okay, let's talk about. This is pretty off chalk, and this might just be a straight up bad play. This is probably my Mac Williams play of this week. So I think his first name is Russell Gage. I think that's his first name. It's R Gage. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts?
Find him though. I have to find him here. Let me see.
Running down my list. I had him listed out here, and I wanted to talk about this guy because I'm not sure. Where is he?
Oh, okay. I know who you're talking about. Okay. He's in the Atlanta game with. He's on the Atlanta side of the ball.
Yeah. I mean, he's basically the guy that I think is gonna slot in where Sanu used to be. Right?
Yeah.
So what do we? I mean, this is like Sanu was never very productive. I mean, like they've got 2 good guys there, and the reason I had put him down here was I put him down for a reason because I wanted to look at the numbers from last week. Let me bring up those. He didn't get much action, but I just wanted to see, like snap wise, they have another guy, Justin Hardy, I think, that's their kind of, they picked him back up as well, and he may end up being the guy there. But I wanted to throw him out there as like, if this is a guy that we want to like take a look at from a, we got to like look at these situations where somebody trades away a starting guy and like who's coming in and taking those reps, right? Somebody's coming in and taking those targets, and Sanu gets a good amount of targets, and they're not just going to distribute those equally to Julio and Hooper and Ridley. I think they do uptick those guys, but yeah, there's going to be a third guy here, right? Like they run 3 wide a lot, so I don't know if it's going to be Hardy. I don't know if it's going to be this Gage guy, but I was just going to pull up his stats from last week. They did use him a little bit last week, not very much, like 11 snaps. They used both of them, but I didn't know if Russell Gage. Yeah, thanks, Brian. I thought that was his first name. Anyways, I think he's an interesting. Somebody I want to dig into a little bit more, kind of see. I don't really have any like tape on this guy. I want to look and see how they used him in the preseason and stuff like that to see. Got two targets. So did Justin Hardy. Both got 2 targets last week. So I did look at the reason I kind of pulled him instead of Hardy was I did look at the depth chart that I think it was on the ESPN or NFL site or something, and Gage was showing as the starter over Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
Hardy, I think, backs up Julio or Ridley on the outside, but the anyways, if he's going to slot in there and just kind of take over Sanu's role at his price, stone minimum kind of price there, I don't mind that play. Take a few shots at that. I think it's more than likely a bust play. Like he's a 5-point kind of receiver than anything. But in a game that we already like, maybe stacking up on both sides. Oh, here's my other thought. I knew I was going to get to something here. My thought on this is kind of like the perfect storm of backup quarterback situation, because one of the things that I like to look for when in a situation where the backup quarterback comes in is, are there any guys that he's going to be playing with that he practices with, right? Second team players. And this is a situation where they trade away Sanu. This guy gets the start, right? And this is a guy that Schaub's working with probably every day. So it's a situation where I like playing tight ends with backup quarterbacks, and I like playing guys that they are building rapport with during practice, right? And Schaub's working with that second team offense a lot more than he is with the Julio and Ridleys and stuff like that. And he's still gonna use those guys, right? But that was my theory there, and why I kind of wanted to take a few shots with that. But anyways, just wanted to throw it out there. Oh, we just got a bunch of comments here. He got hurt in preseason. Okay, thanks, Brian. Sorry I'm late. What about Evans, Mike Williams, and Corey? Rewind. We like all those guys. Hardy is mainly a blocker. Gage is the guy. Falcon fan here. All right. Brian's giving us the Falcon scoop. I like Schaub, Thought, and GPP. Yeah, we like Schaub and GPP as well. I think we're going to take a look and see where his ownership comes in tomorrow. But if it stays as low as it is right now, which is next to nothing, I think it's a smash GPP play. And Tannehill, yes, we like Tannehill as well. So we talked about these games earlier, guys. So if you want to rewind the video and listen to the coverage of that, yeah, please do so. Okay, cool. So do you have any thoughts on that? Or do you need to do a little bit more research?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research. I haven't looked at Gage at all. So I think those are, I think with what you said, it's gonna pique my interest in them more now, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, something to look into. I like situations like that, which is not like a beat you over the head obvious kind of play, but there is a bit of sneaky upside to a situation that it's one of those scenarios where after the game happens, right? And let's play out a scenario where, let's say, Gage just goes off and has even a 18-point game or something like that, like is a smash game for somebody like that. But let's say that happens and everybody's like, oh my God, why were you on this? It was so obvious, like the guy that fell, swapped in for Sanu, and then you can tell the story of like, oh yeah, he was the guy, Schaub likes them. He's been playing with the guy off, whatever, like there's a story that can be told in retrospect and it looks obvious. But it doesn't look obvious when you're sitting here doing it, right? It's like that. Looking back, it's always easier to justify how things play out than when you're looking forward at them. Like, we don't always notice those things up front. So, no, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but like, it's one of those situations where I try to tell a story and see if like it looks like an obvious play that I might have missed after it happens, right? And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Like, but anyways, that's enough of that. That's a pretty obscure play. Let's keep going down the list. Julio, Ridley, we talked about. They're right now still projected pretty low as well, under 10 or 9% each. So like that. Chark and Westbrook and are coming in pretty low as well. We talked about that game, liking those plays. Let's see. The Cincinnati game. This is a weird one. So, oddly enough, Tyler Boyd's still coming in super high owned, even after he burned everybody last week. So he's still coming in like, I think 12 to 14% ownership, which seems high considering the situation. I liked him a lot more until I saw that ownership on him. Because I wanted to go back to him thinking everybody be off, but I guess everybody's thinking that. But in a situation against this Rams team, it seemed like he was the kind of play to make because Rams have got some decent outs. I think their corners are. I have to go look, but I think that their outside corners are the good corners, or is it their slot corner? I get confused on them. It's one or the other. They're either really good at covering the slot or they're really good at covering the outside. Anybody in chat now? We'll have to pull up the DVP numbers for the cornerback matchup numbers for that. But I was looking at Boyd because I thought that was the case, that they're better at covering the outside and kind of funnels underneath to the slot receivers there. So that's kind of why I was looking at Tyler Boyd, but he's coming in pretty high. The other two guys there, it's weird. It's like roll the dice, and one of these guys is going to go off for a pretty big number. But last week we saw Erickson have the blow up week. I'm not going to be playing him necessarily because I think that was an anomaly and not a indicator of this guy's going to start getting all the usage kind of thing. Just kind of like as we saw with Auden Tate. Kind of had a huge week and then tapered off and just been kind of more consistent 10 to 12 point wide receiver. I don't know who the guy is going to be this week. It could be any of three of those, or they could just get completely obliterated by the Rams. So, do you have any interest in any of these wide receivers against the Rams?
Boyd, he did a number on my cash game, but I still cashed everything in my cash lineup, even with him in it. This one's a tough one. He's, with Jalen Ramsey on that defense now, who he covers is going to be who you're going to not want to play as a Cincinnati wide receiver in this game. But more so in this game than anything else is how the game flow is going to work in this game. Is it going to be a close game in London? Is Goff going to show up? Goff typically doesn't have very good games on the road. So if Goff isn't going to have a good game, it's going to kill 13% of lineups. He's projected at just under 13% right now.
Yeah,
but we'll see how that comes out.
The one guy I like on that side, I mean, other than Todd Gurley, because I'm going to play him a ton. The matchup's just too good to get away from here. I know that there is some speculation, I think, on the Wolfpack about
usage.
Usage of him and the Darrell Henderson, and whether or not they get up by 3 touchdowns or whatever, and they decide to just not use him as much or at all. Well, I mean, here's the thought: is if they get up by 3 touchdowns, are they passing for those touchdowns, or are they running Todd Gurley for those touchdowns? Because if he gets only 3 touchdowns, it's okay. I don't mind if he sits for the second half of the game. So, he's a pretty high-owned guy this week anyways, but he's coming in lower than I am projecting him to perform. So I'm going to be overweight on Todd Gurley this week. I mean, I don't know why we want to really convince ourselves to get off of a smash spot for a good running back. And I guess you can make the argument, is Todd Gurley still good? And I think he is. The volume is a bit of a concern, but the Cincinnati run defense sucks. You don't need a ton of volume to do good against these guys. Here's the other thing: is that they're giving up a lot of when I look at my numbers, I want to show you guys, because I want to show you what it looks like on my screen here. Let me share my screen real quick. Click, share. Okay, let's show you this real quick. I do this little thing here where I write my game notes and prepare kind of who I'm playing from each game, and I run these numbers here. I want to show you something here that stands out, something I look for. So these are directly from our power rankings here. So where these what the projection in yardage and passing for rushing and passing is for for the Rams to score. So 163 rushing yards against Cincinnati is what we're projecting, and 285 passing yards. I mean, that's a ridiculous amount of rushing yards, right, to begin with. But 285 passing, also high, right, comparatively to the rest of the games. Seventh, in fact, for teams on the slate in passing yards. So here's what I want to show you guys. This is the defense for Cincinnati to wide receivers and tight ends. These are the pass catchers here, the main pass catchers, I'd say here. And you see the orange color here? This means that these guys are bottom of the field in defending against, I mean, top of the field in defending against, but bottom as far as like these, they're doing good against preventing wide receivers and tight ends of scoring points against them. So Cincinnati is doing good at protecting both wide receivers and tight ends. What does that tell you? They're going to score 285 passing, or they're going to throw for 285 passing yards. Where do you think that's going to go? The big green. 34 points to running backs here that they're giving up. That means they're giving up rushing and passing to that. Now, does LA have any good pass catching running backs? Let me think. You know, he's getting he's a good pass catcher. So this is a smash spot. There's no reason not to play him this week, and I'm going to be uber owned on Todd Gurley. Might bite me in the ass, but this is my rationale here. Like this is like the perfect situation here, and I don't know why I want to get away from a perfect situation, especially considering. Let me just look at his ownership, but I know it was like. Did I have it? I don't think I have him listed because he's coming in probably over 10%, but he's not that high though. Let me see. I'll bring it up on this. This is my other Rams. Oops, I'm sorry. That's stats. That's wrong stats too. All right, running backs. I'm showing you guys the fantasy data here. Todd Gurley. Okay, so yeah, he's 13.4. So still pretty high ownership according to this. I think let me look at Dom Station here. Projected ownership. Todd Gurley, where you at, buddy? I'm already lower than that. Did I miss him? Oh, there he is. So 10%. Yeah. So we got him around 10% right now. Fantasy Days got him around 13. So somewhere in between 10 to 12, 13, I think is still way too low for this guy. Anyways, I'm not going to make a bigger pitch than that about it. But any thoughts, Burns, on my kind of rationale here? I mean, against this kind of smash.
No, I like it. And here's a little bit more statistical analysis for you. So Cincinnati defensive rank against the second level. So what I mean by the second level is when a running back gets past the defensive line, is in the linebacker core of the defense. That is your second line. So Cincinnati is 32nd defensive rank against the second level. And then they're open field ranked number 27. So what that means to me is Todd Gurley gets past the second level, he's going to run for a long time. And Todd Gurley getting passes out of the backfield and getting to that open field, he's going to have a lot of daylight to run.
Yep.
So
like that
towards Cincinnati's porous defense.
Yeah, definitely. The other guy that I was considering here to try to get away from the Cook's dilemma is the Everett. he had actually a really good game last week. I think he scored about 15 fantasy points or whatever, and he's still super cheap. And right now, Everett, he's coming in around 5% owned. I think he's producing more at than he's producing more fantasy value wise than his price probably is. So I don't hit the matchup here isn't quite as good. Cincinnati has been okay against the tight end, pretty good actually against the tight end. And historically, I thought they kind of sucked against that position, but we really haven't seen that this year. And I haven't dug in to see who they play. Maybe they haven't played anybody that good tight end wise, but he's somebody I want to dig into a little bit and see if how much I want to play of him. But he's in that lower price range that I'm considering a few guys in. So
yeah, my only other play in this game is probably the Rams defense.
Mm-hmm.
Their higher price defense. I think they're 3.8K on DraftKings. So
yeah, like the Rams defense. Yeah,
they're the second highest priced defense on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem, especially if I'll have a decent portion of my Todd Gurley ownership being matched up with the Rams defense, but I think they're going to be a pretty popular play as well, even as high priced as they are. But we'll see, I guess, how that comes in.
Let me I want to take a look and see what Gurley is priced at on Fantasy Draft.
Yeah,
you can get a good. If you look at multiple sites like DraftKings, Fantasy Draft, those two sites are really pretty close in terms of pricing.
Mm-hmm.
But you can actually kind of get like some valuation there too. So like Gurley is 13.5K in Fantasy Draft. So typically Fantasy Draft is 2 times the salary of DraftKings. So on DraftKings,
so you're getting value over there because he's 7,400 on DraftKings. But
yeah. So he would on Fantasy Draft, if you take 2 times 7.4, it'd be what is that, 14.8. So you're actually seeing a 1.3 K difference there. So Todd Gurley is a pretty good value down over on Fantasy Draft. And another good value is at the top of the range is Saquon Barkley at 16.2. He's almost 9,000 on DraftKings. So you're looking at an $1,800 difference there. So and make sure when you do this, make sure that you're taking that into consideration when you play multiple sites. FanDuel is another one that FanDuel's pricing is different than DraftKings, but I like to compare DraftKings and Fantasy Draft more than I like to compare FanDuel and DraftKings.
All right, let's power through. I think we got a few more plays here I was going to list down, and maybe if you have any other wide receivers you wanted to talk about. On the Arizona side, both Larry Fitz and Captain Kirk, who might be back this week, finally. We'll see how that plays out. It's still questionable, but they're thinking he might play. Both of those guys are coming in under 5% right now, and I like them both. I like them both better if they're both there. I think Larry's better with Kirk in there, and I think Kirk is a good play. Either, obviously if he's there. If he's not there, he's not a good play. But those guys are going to be lower owned options, and I like both of them. You got any thoughts on the captain and his mate?
If Kirk is back this week, I'll play him over Fitz. It's more of a personal thing for me with Fitz because I've been burnt by him a few times.
Yeah, no, I feel you there. The other,
and I'll say this though.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you go into New Orleans, they could be having a very rough defensive year, but you go into New Orleans, it's a different atmosphere. Especially if Drew Brees plays in this game,
Mm-hmm.
the place is going to be raucous. It's going to be crazy.
It's loud.
It and if Brees plays, and if there's a slight chance that Kamara plays, this is what I've been thinking about with this game. And I thought about this over the course of the day today a little bit, is if Kamara ends up starting, I may still end up playing Murray in this game because Kamara has been hobbled, injured. So Murray could still get a bulk of the touches and still pay off on that 5.8K.
Definitely. Yeah, I like Murray here. I don't see any reason not to play him.
It could suppress his ownership too if Kamara plays.
Yeah, actually, he's not that high owned right now. Let me just see where he's at. Oh, actually, yeah, he is. Never mind. He's over 20. Yeah, he's super chalk.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if Kamara plays, that might depress it a bit, which would be better. And I kind of agree with you. I don't feel very comfortable playing, and I won't probably do this in season long either because I have Kamara. If he does end up playing, I probably will keep him on the bench for at least a week to see. You know, you hate to bench Kamara just because of the talent there, but I don't believe that he's fully healthy. So we'll have to just kind of see how that plays out. But and plus, he's pretty expensive. Kamara is like super expensive for playing an injured dude. So I'm not going to be paying up for him when I can get other guys around his price. You know, Todd Gurley for the same price. So
yeah.
The other guy, I guess, that we can talk about in this game that's sort of the an off chalk play here is the Josh Hill filling in for Cook, who's out from a tight end perspective. You know, this is like what the formula, right? Played tight ends against Arizona, so this is a guy who's super cheap. Has been used to, you know, passing game for New Orleans. I don't feel as super confident about him producing like a good ceiling type of a game as I do some of these other guys, but you know, I can, you know, this is a good a place as any, you know, like, and this just has been the formula all year pretty much, just play the tight end no matter who he is against this Arizona team. So definitely will have some ownership there. I don't know how much I like it. It doesn't seem like a very like I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a very attractive play to me. But I can definitely see, just due to the matchup, I can see it working, you know, well enough. I think it's a better cash play, to be honest, than a tournament. But
yeah, I think there's better positions or better spots at the tight end position than Josh Hill. But
yeah, I mean, I like Brait better, you know, for tournaments.
Yeah,
because I've seen Brait do it before. I've never seen Hill do it before.
Yeah, and I think it kind of depends on who's the quarterback in this game too. If Breeze comes back, you know, is he going to have a connection with Hill immediately off of the injury or not? You know, Drew Brees kind of locks in on MT and goes from there. You know, it's MT in the Ginn show. You know, especially with Traquan gonna.
Oh, I mean, even
Traquan's gonna be out for this game too.
Even Bridgewater's been doing that. Like MT's the guy, right? So, I'm
pretty sure Traquan Smith is going to be out for this game. So, you know, you're just you're lowering the number of options that you have. So, yeah, I mean, Josh Hill could have a game.
All right. Well, let's start wrapping some of this stuff up here. The other game that we can talk about a little bit is the Denver game. There's not too much there, but there is some kind of like lower tone plays, some off truck plays here, and I think that this game, is a little bit interesting. Sort of kind of a middle kind of game. Two decent defenses playing against each other. They're not in Denver, so at Indy. Typically the way you would attack this Denver team is on the ground, with the running back. So Marlon Mack has some potential here. But on the Denver side, since they got rid of Sanders, right? Like there's going to be a lot of ownership on Sutton.
Yeah.
But Deshaun Hamilton, he's a guy that I've been kind of waiting for Deshaun to blow up. They just never have used him. He's never been that productive there. But we were super impressed with like his talent for a while, but I just have never really seen him connect all the dots. And maybe this is an opportunity for him to really step it up and become that number one. But we'll see if he can. Sutton's the kind of more obvious play, but I think the Deshaun Hamilton, like at a lower ownership, is a play that I want to be on a little bit this week, just to take a shot and see if he can connect. The downside here is he's got Flacco throwing to him, so it's not the most attractive play either. But and the only other one that I'll mention here, and I don't. I think we have enough value at the tight end position that we don't need to go here. But Fant is potentially somebody that you could consider due to how bad Indy has been against tight ends in general. He hasn't done very well when we thought he was in a good position prior. So that was my hesitation with him. But due to the fact that Sanders isn't there, there's like, they need to throw it to somebody. And one theory here is that they involve the tight ends more in the passing game. So,
yeah, and he's a rookie too. So rookie tight ends don't typically break out in their first year. It's usually a progression for them to get used to the game and the speed.
Yeah, there's another injury update as far as Doyle, I think, is either going to be I don't think he's out yet, but he is questionable to play, which makes me a little bit more interested on the other side with Ebron. He's sort of been like a touchdown machine this year. I think he's got like about 4 touchdowns in 4 games or something like that this year. I have to double check that stat, but I think that's right. And he doesn't get a ton of yards. He only gets a handful of targets a game, but without Doyle there to snake half of those away from him, I think he could be pretty productive. So I don't mind playing that against Denver either. So I'm sorry, against Denver.
Yeah, I'm with that. I like the Indy defense on this game.
Yep, Indy defense. I think Denver, both defenses are in play for me. Indy's obviously a lot cheaper, but I think you can play either one.
I'm going to have ownership in Mac too. I do like Mac in this game. I think he could have a really good game, and if you pair him and the Indy defense, you could have a nice little mini stack there.
Well, keep an eye on the Doyle news, because if it ends up where Doyle doesn't play, I would highly consider, if you're going to play Indy defense, to consider putting Ebron in there with them as well, like kind of mix and match that Marlon Mack and Indy and Ebron and Indy, because like those are the 2 options, right? Like you're not going to like I can't see going to T.Y. Hilton or any of those guys against the elite Denver corners.
No.
Like
I think Chris Harris is he's I think twice about playing TY this week because of it.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there with TY. I mean, Who's the other guy there that they had that actually did pretty well last week? Pascal, yeah. Like, I mean, again, not a very attractive play, but yeah, Denver has given up some points to wide receivers that are not being covered by Chris, but so I don't know. I don't think it's a place where I want to go. This game is pretty low scoring to begin with, I think, in general, but I'd rather do the defense, tight end defense, running back combo
for sure
in my mind. So anyways, there's that game. On my list for tight ends that I was considering, we talked about, I think, most of them: Brait, Hill, Everett. Oh, actually, the one guy. This will be my last call, I think, for the night. In the Carolina game, Greg Olsen. Now, hear me out on here. This, like, playing against San Francisco, I feel like I want to have a part of this game, a little piece of it, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at San Francisco's defense, they're just good at everything. So it's like there's the obvious C-Mac is like the guy, right? And people are going to be playing him even at his ridiculously high 9,200 price. But Greg Olsen in this situation, I think, has an ability to just be the only really passing option that they can throw to other than Christian McCaffrey. Like the cornerbacks here are so elite that they're like, and they don't have anybody to, like, they don't really have any good receivers to throw to. So I don't really think that I don't hate the call. Like, I don't hate this as a play. I think it's an interesting play. I'm not sure how much ownership I'll have of it, but Olsen's going to come in under 1% owned, right? And he gets enough volume that he can actually produce, right? Like, you can get, he can put up a 20-point game or something like that. Now, I don't think he's going to do that necessarily against San Francisco, but I'm like, I mean, if he puts up 14 to 16 points, like, that's smash, right? And really, it's going to come down to how well the rest of the tight ends do on the slate. It's not it's so hard playing anybody against San Francisco. I don't really want to, like, oversell this because it's a pretty stretch of a play, but it's definitely a guy I want to have a little bit of interest in, just because I think he's he's still producing a decent at a decent clip here, and there's nobody's going to be on this guy,
right,
in this situation. So, what do you think? Am I just being stupid? Is this just a dumb play?
I could be reaching on this one.
Okay, I have not sold you on it. That's okay. I don't.
I honestly, this is another game I've been going back and forth with how to handle McCaffrey in this game. I was thinking, do I go up to 20% on him? Do I exceed 20% on him?
Yeah.
Do I stay in and around 15% on him? He is the best running back in the league. He's going to get it. But how much is he going to get is the question. And then I started to think, well, this game's going to go he's going to get his. I mean, and then on the other side of the ball, the guy I like is Kittle. I like Kittle in this game a lot. And I'm like, what if I pair them two together? What does that do for me? I'm pairing the two highest priced players at their respective positions on the field. And, like, how is that going to make my life? I mean, it can be done. It definitely can be done. And it's worth a shot.
So you play that. you play that combo, and then I'll play the Coleman Olsen combo, and one of us will win. I like your chances a lot more than mine.
But I'm putting it together right now as we speak, and so here it is. I'm going to save the flex for you guys. Can have this lineup. All right, I just started putting it together, and all right, and I'm going to leave the flex for you guys to decide who you want to go in the flex. So the lineup consists of Derek Carr at quarterback, Christian McCaffrey at running back. You can do, and then I have James White as running back 2. Then I have Danny Amendola in the wide receiver position.
Mm-hmm.
I have Terrell Williams in the wide receiver position. I have Nuke in the wide receiver position. I have George Kittle in the tight end position. And then my defense is the Cleveland Browns.
What do you got left, money-wise?
I have $4.5K left for the flex position. And at that price, you can get the likes of Dede Westbrook. You can get, if you want to continue with your running backs, you could go to David Montgomery and just switch out. You could put David Montgomery in the RB position and then move James White to the flex spot because he's starting a later game. I mean, you could go to Corey Davis. You could go to let's see, Cole Beasley if so needed. You could even go to AJ Brown in the Tennessee game. So you could even go to Mike Williams, who will probably be pretty chalky, but with the other pairings in that lineup.
Yeah, I mean, most of your rest of your lineup's pretty off chalk, I think, with a lot of that. So Mike Williams is so cheap this week.
That gets, and I've been thinking about this all week. How can I get 2 guys that could just literally blow up a slate themselves? And we've seen it done with the 2 of them in Kittle and Christian McCaffrey. How can I get them in a lineup? And how can I get a piece of one of these top games in a lineup together that if all goes right, this lineup will just blow up?
Yeah, so, I like it. I think it's a really interesting scenario. And I really don't think Christian McCaffrey is going to be as high owned as we're projecting right now. Like I think he's still coming in around that 20 mark. And I don't think people are going to get there. I don't think they're going to be able to afford to get there on him. They may try to smash him in, but I really think people are going to come down to Saquon Barkley when they say, well, I can come down a few $100 and get Saquon in a better matchup than Christian. And they both have this kind of similar upside. They haven't shown Saquon hasn't shown it this year. That's the downside. And but I think that he's going to be half the ownership of Saquon.
And the reason why I kind of want Christian McCaffrey 15-20% of my lineups is that Christian McCaffrey is one hell of a running back, and he's going home to California. And who has San Francisco actually played in terms of teams that have actually had good running backs? Cleveland Browns. Chubb was in that game. They got game flowed out of that game, so he couldn't be utilized. But if you look at the Panthers, Christian McCaffrey is their offense. So I'm gonna have him in there.
Yeah, I don't mind the call. I think it's a good, and I think he'll come in probably lower than expected just due to the price point. So if you can fit him, go for it.
And Kittle's not going to ship a Waller. Yeah, I think he'll be lower than Waller.
And even at a reduced price.
Cooper.
He's definitely going to be lower than Hooper and Waller. Both those guys are going to be probably 5% more than Kittle. Kittle will probably come in around or under 10, I would guess. So both of these guys are going to be depressed ownership for the quality of player that they are. But I mean, they're both in tougher matchups this week, and that's why. So pick 2 out of Singletary, Montgomery, Latavius, or Jamal Williams for this week. Wow. I'm going to go with Latavius, and we didn't talk about Green Bay because they're not on the main slate, but
They're going
probably Latavius and maybe Montgomery. I'm going to. Yeah, actually, they do give up a lot to the run.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be a good play. I mean, I like Aaron Jones better in that situation, but yeah, don't hate that either one.
Yeah, that looks more like a season-long question. I think Latavius is definitely going to be one of them, and do your research on the other 3.
Depends, I guess. If it's season long, you got to consider PPR and stuff like that. Singletary is only a PPR type thing, so if you're not in PPR,
the thing about Singletary is going up against Philly's defense, and Philly's defense against the run is pretty stout.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I would want to play Singletary in that. Montgomery, kind of talked about him in the show.
Yeah.
He could be a play this week that does okay. I mean, the Dom's putting him in lineups right now because he's so low priced, and he's 4.4K. So
let's see. Any other plays that you wanted to talk about that were a little off chalk, or we're running up on long on our time here again? So I don't know that this new format, I think this was just a more unorganized version of what we've done before. So just because we just kind of went all over the place with the game coverage.
But I think what we did today, I like what we did today because we gave the viewers, the listeners, a well-rounded approach to how we would view how we view the slate to kind of mold and take shape a little bit,
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's wrap it up with what your kind of favorite, or let's say what your highest ownership of an off chalk play is going to be this week is, and we're talking about like for tight ends, they got to be under 5% owned. Under for wide receivers, under, let's just say 8% owned, or 9, under 10. Let's say under 10, because that's really pretty decent there. And for running backs, under 10 as well.
Okay. Wide receiver.
Pick one from each.
Okay, so wide receiver, I'm going to go with Godwin. I like Godwin this week. I always like Godwin. I think I'm going to stay. Let's see. Running back. Got to be under 10% on the running backs. I'm just going to go with the ownership that we have in the Dom station right now. And I think I'm going to be a little bit higher than the market on Le'Veon Bell this week.
Is he coming in under 10 in Dom?
Le'Veon's coming in at 8% on the Dom station right now.
Okay, so we'll see if that holds. But
yeah, I don't see it to hold, but right now it'll be okay. And then we're going under 8% on the tight end.
Let's do under 5 on the tight end.
Under 5?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm going to steal one of yours, and I'm going to go with Eric Ebron. I'm going to probably be over the field on that. I liked what you were talking about.
I was kind of thinking you were going to say Brait there.
How we could pair him. I am, but I would have if I went with a different wide receiver than Godwin.
Oh, okay.
And then on
So
quarterback, we're looking at under 5% or 10% on quarterback.
to be kind of off chalk, I think we got to go under 5 for
Under
quarterback.
5.
10% is pretty chalky for a quarterback.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with what currently is in the Dom station, and I'm gonna stay in that Tampa Bay game, and I'm going with Jameis Winston at under 1%. He's not gonna be there when we get locked in. He's gonna be more towards 5 or higher, but at less than 1% in a really good game.
Yeah, let me see where they're showing him on this other one. Winston, where is he? He's down the list. Yeah, I got him at 3 on this other site, so it's definitely pretty low owned. So either way, if he holds under 5, yeah, he's going to be low owned.
Yeah, I like him at that, and wow, it's going to be incredible if that holds and he's that low owned. And
I mean, I think it will hold because Tennessee is still perceived as a good, and they are pretty good at defending the pass. So, I think that it's a situation where you're betting on Winston to do what he's been doing, which is just chunk the ball downfield and hit his Evans and Godwin deep, which they continue to do that, and they really only need 2 plays to to smash. So, I think that those are good. I think for me, my let's see, my 3 would be let's see, Gurley's coming in over, so I'm going to go on the running back side. I think it's going to be. I've got Bell over 10 right now, so I think he'll be high for me percentage wise. But since I'm running him a little bit over projection, I'm going to go with a sub 10 guy in Austin Eckler.
It's a good one. I like it.
Yeah. And then for my tight end sub, I think I'm going to go with Brait actually for the tight end. I really like Evans and Godwin at that 5 to 7%. So I'm probably going to be on all 3 of those guys, but I like the call out on Brait there. And I'm a little biased there because I keep thinking when you brought that up, what jumped in my mind on Cameron Brait was when I went to King of the Beach 2 years ago in the Bahamas, and had run. It was running against those guys in there. One of the guys that I kind of been chatting with, and he was actually like in the top 5 finishers while we were at that live final. One of his kind of like completely off the board plays was Cameron Brait in a similar situation where he was kind of like coming in, and it was one of those things where you look back and like, oh yeah, I can see why he was a good play in that situation, but nobody was on him. He's like the only guy that had him, and he went off for like 20 points, and it was a really great play. And that just keep popping in my head when you brought him up. I was like, OJ Howard out. I like it. So I'm going to be.
And then I'm like, I scurried around. I'm like, man, how's Tennessee against the tight end this year? Yeah. And they're 27th, but then you look back at Geek and I were looking back at his how his production was with Winston when OJ Howard was out last year, and he had 1 or 2 good games, and the others were kind of duds. And I was thinking,
he's definitely a boomer bust type play.
Yeah, and I'm like, but how many of the good deep tight end position? And I'd have to look back at the stats, but Cameron Brate, we've seen it before with him. He has a good rapport with Winston. He could break the slate, 2.7K. He's not going to need much to do it. So he opens up.
I mean, I'm not going to. I'm not going to be like, I'm not running him at like 40% ownership or anything like that. But like, I'm definitely going to be mixing him in at a higher percentage than his ownership's going to be at. I'll probably triple or triple his ownership in my. I was just looking to see what the matchup was actually. 13.3 to tight ends. Rams give up, so kind of middle of the pack there. But certainly at a price point that is worth taking a look at there. And then on my wide receivers, I think I'm gonna have to see how MJJ and Tate end up, but like I think I'll be pretty heavily owned on those guys if both under or around that 5 or 6%. I don't think that they're going to stay there, but I like probably Golden Tate probably more. Then a little bit more than MJJ there, but I'll probably be heavily owned on him if those ownership stay around that rate. And that's and I didn't do a quarterback, but let me actually bring up the quarterback ownership projections because I have a lot that I need to really refine down, and I haven't narrowed my pool yet. I usually do that tomorrow. Where's Carr coming in? Because I think I'm going to be probably over on Carr if he ends up sticking under.
Carr is 1.3.
Yeah, so I'm going to say that Carr is going to be my guy if he stays under 5% projected ownership. I'm going to be over on him.
I like it. I like his price. I like his rapport with Terrell Williams coming back off of an injury, and with Waller.
And I'm definitely going to be running a few lineups at least with my Tanny Hill. I'm a Miami fan, which has been painful for a long time actually, but very painful this year. So I got to root for my boy.
Sadly, my team's not gonna sniff a win this week, so it's all right. I'd rather just use players against them.
Yeah. Trudy, I don't know which wide receiver 3. I missed the comment there, so sorry about that. But we'll just rewind if you need to review something we said. Okay, I think that's it. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Burns, you got anything left to shout outs or want to say?
Well, I'd just like to say, guys, good luck. And, we do this pod on Friday to allow you to have all the information sink in over the course of the week. You got Geeks Vegas lines, and then they followed up with the Wolfpack, and then you come in with us with the off the chalk plays.
Trudy was asking about the third wide receiver you had in the lineup that you were building, and that was DeAndre Hopkins was the last of the wide receivers.
It was Amendola, DeAndre Hopkins, and Terrell Williams. And then I left you guys with the flex to choose who you guys wanted in the flex. But if you chose a running back in the flex in a 1:00 game, you can move one of the other running backs down to the flex, because you always want a running back or a player in a later game in the flex, because then you can always just change them out. DraftKings allows you to do that, change them out before the 4:00 games start. So you always want to the tip that's no. A lot of casual players don't usually know is to always put your ladder players playing in ladder games into the flex. But yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Let's go ahead and wrap it up, guys. Thanks for joining. I know we ran pretty late here, 2 hours and 20 minutes. Damn. All right. Well, we'll try to
we give
you guys a lot. We'll try to tighten it up a bit next time. See if we can maybe refine it down. But we covered a lot tonight. So, guys, good luck. I hope you win it big, and peace.